Juha Pajula, who comes from VTT Technical Research Center of Finland, is going to tell us about the HEDIMED research platform, where complex data coming from different sources can be analyzed in a secure manner. So, Juha, the floor is yours.
Let's go for the research platform. I have also the secondary title, Secure and User-Friendly Data Analytics with Virtualization Technologies, which was the actual aim. So I'm also from the VTT Technical Research Center of Finland, and I wanted to put a note here because sometimes people don't know what VTT is. So we are one of the biggest leading European research institutions, and as you can see, we have quite a few people working. Quite many of them even have the PhD. Let's go for the HEDIMED research platform. First of all, this was not really aimed to have a platform. We were aiming to do a proof of concept about doing analytics for a complex data. The questions we placed on the beginning, that can we make a researcher-friendly environment and so that it's safe from the data perspective, and then could data virtualization technologies provide safer access to data? So we were very interested about the data virtualization at that time. If going back 5.5 years to 2020, as you know, nowadays we have a lot of different environments which could be used, but on 2020 there were not very few or even any options to do this kind of collaborative shared analytics of data. And what we had, they were mostly coming from the universities. So the universities might have shared secure computing solutions, some of them, but typically if you wanted to use them, everybody had to be at least a visiting researcher or similar to access the university environment. Then we also knew that there will be some new regulation coming. In Finland, we were just getting the secondary use law in place, and that was forcing a lot of analytics to Kapseli. And I think we already got a hint about the future on the Irini's presentation about the ESD, and I'm also commenting that a bit on later. Then looking now from 2020 to this moment, the regulation as well as the attitudes have changed in Europe. So we want to do more collaborative stuff, and we want to do that very safely. And there is this EHDS Act, as Irini presented, and it's supported by the TEHDAS and TEHDAS 2 projects, where I happen to work also. And there we'll try to look that these secure browsing environments are fulfilling all kinds of requirements. And well, my own personal view is that we need to be able to do exposomic research there. But in practice, it means a bit less freedom for the researchers. We have to play with the environment we have and get our tools into the environment. We cannot do that on the fly as we do now or have been doing. We have had a lot of presentations about the characteristics of exposomic data analytics. So this is like technical developer point of view. I am not a clinician, not at all. I'm a computer science guy, data analyst, and something else developing these environments. So from my point of view, the big thing is that we have very high variance on the data types. We have a lot of different types of data, and the sources of data differs. We have a lot of different metadata related to those, and typically the analysis of that data is collaborative effort just because of the type of the data. We have a lot of different types of the data, so we need to understand the data, and that means that we need a lot of expertise, and rarely any single researcher can do that alone. So we need a lot of different types of researchers, and that leads that we need to have a lot of different types of tools, which in nowadays, if we use open source, they are mostly based on R and Python. But if we go to statistics, there is different tools which are not that free, but commonly used, like Stata or SPSS, MATLAB, and so on. But we focused on R and Python because they were freely available, and we didn't have to think about the licensing issues of the tools. Then we had the platform. We aimed to have a proof of concept, and then we deployed the concept. We developed it a couple of iterations, but we end up having three main principles of design. So we wanted to keep up with the high security. That caused a little bit of extra trouble on maintenance as well as on development side. We want to have it as user-friendly as possible, as I stated at the beginning, and that meant that we aim to have this kind of localized, local-like centralized computing environment. So all the computations are happening on the server in centralized environment, but it feels to be like a local software for the researcher. That was the aim. And when we were thinking that everything is fine and okay, and we can do things, and then we realized that we need to have a dedicated platform agreement so that we can agree this kind of use of data, reasons, who is charged in what, and so on. So in practice, we created this kind of dedicated agreement for the platform, which was aimed to be agile on the study and data use point of view. So in practice, we don't do the joint register agreements, data transfer agreements, or data protection agreements again and again and again when we have a new topic coming on with the same data, but with a bit different idea and different researches. We can, in a way, lean against that platform agreement. It was agreed by all the partners who were using the platform on the project and are still using. And the security point of view, access only from the partner networks, and then the researchers cannot access the original data at all, but we have this so-called virtual database in use. So as it is on the picture in the middle, so there's physical models coming from the real data, and then we have the virtual models which can read pieces or whole original data or combine multiple original data as a one view. So it looks like a database, but there is no data really. The data is combined on the fly when somebody is calling the database together. And then we had a dedicated access system for RStudio and Jupyter Lab, so in R and Python, so that when users were having the analytics running on RStudio, they were able to, with a single function call, to get the data. They didn't have to know anything about the SQL, for example, to run the analytics. And access to these were run over SSH tunnels, which also caused surprising problems with the local IP management of the partners, but let's not go there. There is also the picture on the bottom showing how the access in practice happens. So the partner goes through internet with this kind of whitelisted firewall access to gateway, and then authenticates on the gateway, and then again authenticates to either the SFTP server or analytics server. And SFTP is used for transferring the data to the system, and then the analytics is running on the analytics server, and extraction of data happens either directly from the analytics machine or from the SFTP with the help of the management. So that was the platform. This is what we got. Then about the recommendations based on all of the exercise we had. There were a lot of discussion how to do analytics and so on, but what I would say that the exposomic research requires dedicated analysis environments which can handle all of these different types of data, and the tooling on these environments is meant for the purpose of the data analytics. So it's very challenging to have this kind of environment where everybody can do their analysis properly. So Python requires different packages, R requires different packages to be installed, and they are sometimes very complex. Then one big thing which we have learned in general is that data preparation on the exposomic research, it really requires attention because of the heterogeneous data sources. So it should be taken into account on very early point, even before the project. And that leads to the next bullet, that we should design very carefully exposomic research beforehand. And data collection itself should be part of this design. So if we use existing data, we should be very aware that how the data is collected, how the patients have been treated when it is collected, which actually has shown that this real-world data has a bit of limited applicability on the exposomic research, because when we have a lot of RVD data, then we have so much sparsity on the data that it starts to be very challenging to handle. So we have to be careful when we select the data for exposomic research to have a proper coverage on everything what we want to see. What has been also noticed that we need to have this legal and regulation expertise, because different data types may have very different regulation on top of them. Even the EHDs will help, but to bring the data for EHD, it may also have some other regulation or let's say IPR related matters, because some of those materials might not be IPR free. So a few words about regulation. I'm not saying too much because Irini already emptied my table on this point, but one topic what I want to show here is that as Irini also pointed out, that there is many or not even all of the main exposomic points highlighted on the regulation. And I cannot highlight it enough that EHDs must be taken into account on every project planning in the future. And I hope that the infrastructure will support well the exposomic research. The future, on the point of view of research platform we developed, it's a proof of concept, so it wasn't meant to be as something we can take into account directly somewhere, even though now people would like to have it. It's not applicable as an SPE on EHDS because we cannot fulfill all the, let's say, principal requirements, but it could be transferred to that kind. It could be quite straightforward actually, or at least partially. And we should focus to study options for this data analytics with the current. So in a way, how we found it out, it was mostly usable. So not people were completely happy because there is limitations of the environment, but it mostly was found usable. And from the virtualization point of view, which was the original question on our case, in all levels, we found it very good practice, and it should be used to build this kind of environments. Then a couple of future things. I was participating in the Human Exposome Moonshot Forum last week, for which reason my whole presentation was made very fast. It was over 200 researchers globally about exposome. Also people from EHN, and I was from HEDIMED, so International Human Exposome Network, the future one of EHN. And the idea there was to kickstart this kind of global research initiative for human exposome. And the outcome of the event was this Washington, D.C. Declaration on the Human Exposome. And the main, in a way, the idea of that one, you can go there. If please I've shared the link is there. You can also find it from the exposome. Human Exposome Moonshot Forum, you can read it through, but the idea is to get all the researchers together from globally to do the best out of the exposome research and utilize it as much as possible. And with those words, I would thank you all, and here is the button as earlier.